Okay, so the last exercise, exercise 4, working with costs. We've got Airline A, some details on Airline A, operating a daily service return, A320 with 160 seats and an 85% load factor between Melbourne and Brisbane, and the airline's got 30% market share. Okay, so we know it's frequency per week. It says it's a daily return. So just put a little note there, that's return. Seats per week, it's going to be that many seats times that many services and times 2 because it's a return service. The distance we're told was 1380 kilometres. So we can work out our ASKs. So our distance times seats per week is our ASKs per week. And we're also told that we have 30% market share. So if we go Airline A's ASKs divided by 0.3, we get the total market. And just doing a double check there, you can see Airline A divided by the total market is 30%. So that's your ASKs. We're told in the question that the seat factor is 85%. So we can work out our RPKs per week, which is our ASKs times the seat factor. So these are RPKs. Market share we've talked about. Our yield is 15 cents, which means our revenue per week is our yield divided by 100, converting cents to dollars, times your RPKs. So our revenue per week is 394,000. Our cost per week is 200,000, which means our profit, our P&L, is 194,000. So that's the first part of the question, I think. So management is evaluating introducing a second daily service using the same aircraft. It's expected the second service will create 5% market stimulation and the market share will increase to... Okay, so let's work out the competition as well. So the total market minus Airline A will give you your competition. Let's assume we said 30% market share. So we'll assume that's the same for RPKs. Minus Airline A. So RPKs divided by ASKs, 85%, and we'll assume that's the same for the market. Okay, so we've got 5% growth in market share, in the size of the market, so stimulation of 5%. So we look at RPKs growing by 5%. Okay, so this is in the next scenario. So we're evaluating a second daily. A second service will create 5% market stimulation and the market share will increase to 43%. So our new service and new RPKs new RPKs per week is that, and we're saying that we now get 43%, so 0.43 times the new. So what is our new ASKs? Well, we're adding a second service with the same plane. So it's going to be seats per week times 2 times our distance. So we've got that many ASKs now. We'll assume that the competition stays the same. So our new total market ASKs is up 30%. So we're doubling ours and the competition is staying the same. So market ASKs is up 30% and our RPKs is up only 5%. So competitor competition competitor RPKs is just the new market RPKs minus ours, and we're at 43% now. So we can check that. Okay, so our market share goes to 43%, which means the competitors are dropping from 70% down to 57%. Our new market share in capacity is 46%, and we've got 43% of demand, or RPKs. So what's our new load factor? It's RPKs divided by ASKs. So we're down to 64% load factor. And our revenue, again, we're assuming yield stays the same. We'll have a look at the question in a second again. Times RPKs. So that's our new revenue, which is up a fair bit from 395. But our costs, now we've got both services. So let's have a look at our costs quickly. So the question says, the weekly costs of the existing service are outlined in this table. Assume aircraft is blah blah, yield is that, okay, and that's not going to change, which may be given all the new capacity, a 30% growth in capacity. I think you could maybe argue that yield has to come down, but anyway. And then we assume the second service will share half the additional costs where applicable. So what we do here is fuel, flight crew, all these direct operating costs will stay the same. So we copy those down. And these indirect costs, like depreciation, airports, passenger, these we can assume are half the costs of operating. So multiplied by 0.5. So that's half the costs. Okay, so your first flight is $200,000 and your second flight is $170,000. So we're halving the indirect operating costs, but the direct ones are relating to how much we're flying. So our new costs are $370,000. We can link that in there if we like. Okay, and our P&L now is revenue minus costs is $223,000. So what are we doing? We've got, let's see what growth in profit we've got. So we've got a 15% growth in profit by flying the extra service, even though our load factors are lower. We're getting a lot more revenue because we're getting more market share and we're flying additional services. So the question ends, advise management if you believe the second service is viable and under what conditions. And suggest if you have any alternative proposals. So that second service does look viable based on the assumptions that we've made. We're getting a 15% growth in profit, and that's covering our costs. One thing we might propose to management is to do some sort of yield management. If we can get that load factor up from 64%, we can potentially get some additional revenues as well. We don't want to start a price war though, because we've managed to increase our market share and maintain our yield. But certainly if we could, do some sort of revenue management and yield management, we could potentially try and get our load factor up and increase revenue even more, because 36% of our seats are currently flying empty, and to fill those isn't going to increase those costs much.